Welcome back. Another episode of Jesus Cartel. I guess, in a way, this is kind of our Christmas special.
There you go. There you go. I like Christmas specials.
Yeah, we did a Thanksgiving special, and so it seems only fitting that the closest one to our Christmas day would be our Christmas special, and so here we are. We have made it this far to the point where I'm acknowledging that holidays exist while still simultaneously maintaining my stern belief system on corporate holidays.
Well, we're doing really good, and we are growing together and becoming more of a part of each other and a oiled unit here. So, so we've had a Thanksgiving special and a Christmas special. I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, typically I'd ask you what's been going on lately, but I think our Get to Know You segment question is going to kind of fill in a lot of the gaps there because, being as how it is Christmas, I'm curious, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah. So, so today is Wednesday. We put this out on Friday. No, today's Thursday.
It is Thursday.
We'll put this out tomorrow on Friday. Tomorrow I have a catering thing. Now, that's a get-to-know-you deal that we don't talk about very often, but I'm actually a licensed caterer, a licensed food specialist or supervisor or whatever. And so I have a catering event tomorrow that I'll be doing. And then the kids will be in town. So Annalise is coming in from Dallas. Elena's going to be in from Ruston. So Becky asked them to not plan anything really away for the weekend. So basically we're just going to plan on spending the weekend together. Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, we'll just spend time together. We'll be hunting, we'll be cooking, we'll be doing, different things. We'll have other people come over some of those times. We'll probably have Becky's mom at our house on Saturday, and then probably have my mom over there Saturday night. But my mom's there, a good bit anyhow. She'll probably be there with everything that we do. And then we'll go to church on Sunday morning and have our service there. And then Sunday night will be our big Christmas Eve for us, to where us and grandmother cook a lot of food and we'll eat and stuff, not traditional food, but just regular, just junk food type stuff. And we'll eat that Christmas Eve night and open all our presents. And we always buy a lot of presents and have a big deal with just us there. And then Monday morning be what I enjoy doing. Well, I can't say the most because my family listens to this, but Monday morning I will get up and go to work and be there with the Fresh Start people as they have Christmas. So we'll have a big Christmas day at Fresh Start on Monday where all the families come in. And I just said, the best, because I really enjoy doing that this will be my 18th Christmas at Fresh Start, and so I enjoy seeing those families, being with them. And so my family will actually come join me, and we will eat our only traditional Christmas Day meal on Christmas Day at Fresh Start.
Yeah, so that's really cool.
So that's what we got going on.
Yeah, man, I like that. I think that's pretty awesome. Christmas for us is a little different, just because of kind of how I approach corporate holidays and stuff like that. We do go do a bunch of stuff with family and things like that. We're not a Scrooge or anything. And we do on Christmas morning. We do gifts with our kids. Each kid gets 5 gifts, no more, and they're nothing crazy. You know what I mean? Not several $100 items, anything like that. We have a really big family, and our family has always been really, really generous to us and to our kids. Our kids want for nothing. They need for nothing. It is insane.
Right.
Just the level of generosity that we receive, not just at holidays,
Right.
all year, from our family. And so our kids always have more stuff than they know what to do with. And so we actually, this sound goofy, but I'm dead serious. So we have 2 toy boxes. 4 kids, 2 toy boxes. When those toy boxes are full, that's it.
Yeah.
And so when we get more stuff, we pull out all the toys, and the kids fill their toy box back up. I let them go one at a time. They fill up their toy boxes. And once the toy boxes are full, they're full, and we give the rest of the toys away. We find different locations and stuff where those toys will be able to get to kids that don't have a lot for Christmas because all of our stuff is always gently used. Our kids aren't rough on stuff. They never have been. Two, it's really nice stuff. It's not stuff that breaks easy because, like I said, our family's way overboard with the gifts and stuff. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They love our kids. That's a good thing. And so it's an opportunity to teach the girls, and they know that it's not a surprise to them. They're not heartbroken when it happens. They're aware when we get an influx of things, there's an outflux also, and they know where those toys are going. They know they're going to be with children that don't have as much stuff and as much opportunity and things. And so Christmas for me and my family is an opportunity to have a lot of teachable moments. And it's an opportunity to solidify some core values of our family in that we're not worried about how much we get. We're not worried about if we get it all. We're definitely highly concerned with giving. And at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is that you have the people around you that you care about. And so these are things that we just try to reinforce different ways. It can be difficult at times because it's easier with Aria, who's 6, than it is with Arlen, who's 4, because Aria at this point gets it. She's got a pretty strong. I'm not saying she's an adult, but she's got a pretty strong grasp of what we do and why we do, and she understands it. Arlen has been asking every day for the last week if Christmas is tomorrow. And when you're like, no, it's not for another week and a half, she's like, oh, that's too long. And I was like, and it's just me being transparent with our viewers. I'm like, well, if that's really how you feel about it, we can not do presents at all so that it doesn't stress your mind. If that would be helpful to you, if it's causing you problems because it's you got anxiety about all these gifts that you can't open, we can just not do them. We can give those away to another kid who it won't bother them. And she's like, oh, no, I can wait. You know what I mean? And so, and that's not, and here's the deal. I'm not bluffing either. I'm definitely willing to give her gifts away if I think that will solidify for her a better understanding of appreciation and patience and things like that. Now, that's not my hope when we have those conversations. My hope is she responds exactly the way that she did. And that, no, you know what? I think I can be a little more patient regarding this whole gift situation. And they always have responded that way because of the way that we communicate as a family, because of the way that we approach things. More times than not, they do exactly what we hope they do. Not always. And, if I could give any advice to parents, I'm not saying I got it all figured out, but I know this for sure. If you make a call that you're going to do something, follow through. Follow through. Do not create inconsistency in your kid's mind as to whether or not you're going to do what you said you were going to do. And so if you're going to make the threat, you better follow through with it if they don't meet their end of the deal. And so, if Aria can't go hunting, if she doesn't finish her schoolwork in the next 30 minutes, well, 30 minutes goes by, Aria doesn't go hunting, and that's just that. You gotta be consistent. And so, but through that consistency, I think the holidays have been a time where my kids have probably learned the most over the years, just because they have a lot of opportunity to explore things they don't get to explore throughout the year, and they're around some people who are really frazzled. And they don't really understand why. And so kind of getting to walk through that with them has been it's always been a cool thing. So I look forward to the growth I see in my kids every Christmas through that. And also the coin toss of whether or not we get to go to Christmas, because we have a family of 4 and we're like I don't know what it is, every Christmas my family gets sick. And so Aria and my children have missed 3 of 6 Christmases because of contagious illness that's in our house. And so, we're about to have a baby any day now, no later than the 29th. And so, Courtney was all worried about whether or not the girls are going to get to go see my family for Christmas because, it's a drive. And I said, well, hey, we might not even be well at Christmas, so let's not let's not get too stressed. And then what happened? Just yesterday, illness entered the home, and so hopefully it'll be out and it won't spread around the whole family. But But yeah, it's an interesting time, the holidays for
Hey,
us.
I understand. And, looking back on Facebook and some things like that, it seems like, our household gets to not feeling so great about this same week, too. And Annalise and or Elena and Cooper dealt with it last weekend. Becky and I've dealt with it this week and stuff. And so, hey, we understand that, too. But as far as the rules and the guidelines and all those kind of things, I just want to say this because we look at things from a different perspective sometimes,
Sure.
and I just want to say this: it's worth it. So the groundwork that you're putting in, that sometimes is difficult. It won't be difficult long, and it's worth it. And the thing about it is it's much talking as you've had to do with the first two about those things, you won't have to do with the next two because they'll take care of it for you.
Sure.
And so baby 3 and 4 are going to be raised more by baby 1 and 2, and they're going to instill those same things in them. They're going to be like, hey, look, if you leave your toys out, you don't get to play with it anymore. If you do, and they're going to let them know, and not in a bad way, but in a culture way. So you're doing the hard part now, but I just want you to know that it is going to pay off. And look, those are things that we all deal with. I have a rule at my house that for me that I only keep 20 pairs of shoes. Right?
Hold on, let me breathe.
Hey, and you're going to say that right off the bat, but I mean all shoes. From my rubber boots to my outside tennis shoes to the boots that I wear to my regular tennis shoes to my running shoes to my dress shoes, all those casual shoes, all those kind of things. And so if you start in your mind, you're thinking 20 right off the bat, but then you start adding all that up together, it's really not that obsessive. One of those is a black pair of nice dress shoes that I only wear with a black suit and stuff. But as a pastor, I have to wear them a lot of times. Another one is a pair of maroon dress shoes that I only wear with certain suits. But as a pastor, I have to do that. And so 20 is really not that much. So when we get, and I love shoes, it helps my back, it helps me feel better wearing nice shoes. So when we get up to that number, then I start giving shoes away. Same thing. And then every time I give shoes away, then I clean out my closet. So I usually clean out my closet at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and my shoes at least once a year, and I give them to the guys at Fresh Start, and they love it. Now, because like you said, they are better quality and very nice and still just gently used, then most of the staff takes my stuff before it ever gets to the guys. But I do think that it's important to have guidelines, whatever they are, even though you may think they're a little far-fetched, at least there is a guideline, And so for them to learn that at a young age, that we don't just take, but that we're blessed to be a blessing, I think is a very important thing.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Yep.
You know what? I also want to apologize to you because I overreacted to the 20 shoes thing. I started thinking through my head after you said that, and I'm a man that if you ask most people, they would say has no shoes. But I have a pair of combat boots. I've got 2 pairs of cowboy boots. I got a pair of flip-flops that I use just slip on or just wear around. I'll do that too. And then I got a pair of tennis shoes I wear, a pair of tennis shoes I work out in, and then 2 pairs of dress shoes. So I'm at 8 pretty I think that's the only shoes that I have is those 8 pairs, but that's way more than I thought I had.
Yeah, I mean, because we're counting the Sanooks or whatever everybody wears now. It's not Sanooks. What are they?
Hey dudes.
Hey dudes. We're counting flip flops.
Sure.
I count my golfing shoes in there. I mean, this is everything.
I got a pair of golfing shoes.
There you go.
Yep.
So you just keep thinking about it.
You're right.
It's rubber boots. I mean, and,
I got a pair of rubber boots. You're right.
Saying.
So now I'm at 10.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I definitely overreacted.
So I got
there.
a pair of rubber boots, but I also got a pair of those gator waders. Man, that's one of my favorite things that I've bought recently.
Yeah.
And I think I got them a couple years ago, or maybe last year for Christmas. And, man, I love those things.
Yeah.
It started because we were coaching football one day in Columbia, and it was a football game, and we were coaching, and it was wet field and everything, and the cool coaches had gator waders on with their, they had their cargo shorts on, t-shirt on, and they had gator waders. And I was out there getting my feet soaked, with my tennis shoes.
Yep.
And I was like, man, what's up with this? And then I figured it out. And a guy named Aaron Monin showed me. He said, man, everybody's got gator waders, And so I felt the FOMO because I didn't have them and went and got some. I love them.
Yeah, Aaron Monin, the most handsome of the three Monin brothers, in my opinion.
He is.
Yeah.
And he's half the man he used to be.
Oh, wait. I hope this gets back to the Monins.
So I tell you what, his wife is one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
And so we love Miranda.
She's
and
solid.
Appreciate them. So
She's
know if they listen to Jesus Cartel or not. I'm pretty sure they're saved, so they probably do. And but now we love Aaron and Miranda Monin.
Yeah, the Monins are great. The brothers, man, fantastic guys. Really, I've got good relationships with them, and one of the funniest groups of people you'll ever be around. But props to him for showing you the gator waders. A decent shoe to wear frogging, by the way, if you ever decide to do that. Yeah. Just be careful if your feet get buried, as it does when you frog sometimes, because you will lose it under the mud.
When I was young, I'm not trying to give too much transparency here, but when I was young, people would say that we'd go frog gigging, and we never went frog gigging. That was just us going and hanging out on the turn row or something, But I never did gig a frog. I'm sure other people did, but that was just kind of code for we're just gonna go hang out on the turn row.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you're like just not that, you're a man but you're not super masculine, you probably have gigged some frogs. Grab them by hand. Be an adult. You know what I mean? Like, it's a challenge to grab them by hand. Okay. Anybody can gig a frog. That's a child's play. And so, but no, I appreciate what you said earlier. Just to kind of backtrack on the work that we're putting in now. And to be honest, I think I want to speak to the men out there, because this isn't just with holidays. It's kind of across the board. There would be no problem with what we're doing if the only thing we had to answer to was our own home. You understand? Because my children don't know any other way of life. And so the pressure comes from outside the home. Yeah. It's like, you don't let your kids eat a bunch of sugar. They're missing out on all of these brownies and all these snacks. And it's like, they don't know that. They don't know they're missing out on anything, because they've never
really
lived.
Not missing out because they don't know.
Agreed. Right. They have there's no concept in their mind that they're missing anything. Right. And they still get cookies and brownies. Some we just pretty heavily regulate it because we don't want our kids to be sick or have to deal with all these different struggles and stuff that eating too much processed foods and sugars and stuff like that ends up creating for children. And so one, they've got no idea they're missing out on anything. The other thing is, it's just a social pressure that, I'm going to be honest, I don't feel. I'm just not the type of person that cares about social pressure or what people think about me. I'm totally content doing what's right and everybody being mad at me for it. I don't care if I'm the only person in the world doing it. If it's going to be for the best, I will stand by myself, and I don't have an issue with that. But for a lot of men, the issue is, I don't want to say the issue because I don't mean that the wives are an issue. The pressure gets to the wives more because it's different socially for wives. They're viewed different. It's not like men. No one cares whether or not a man let his kid have snacks and cookies, but the wives do, and they talk about each other like that. As terrible as that sounds, but it really is different for them. And so a lot of men cave on what's right because they don't want to have to deal with having those conversations with their wife and going through the difficulty to get to a page in your family where you're standing on what your values are above whatever the social pressure says. And I want to say, like you said, that is a battle worth having. Amen. It's a battle worth having. Let your family values be more important to you and your wife and your children than whatever everybody else says you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. But it takes some really hard conversations and some times and probably some hurt feelings and some tears to get to that point. And so, I'm not talking about like yelling at each other. I'm just saying, like, working through the difficulty. Your wife's going to be sad sometimes because she really wants the kids to have the experience everybody else has, and other people are telling her that they're not having that experience. It's not true, but that's what other people are telling her, and that's a lot of social pressure for people to experience. And I would just say, lovingly dig your heels in.
Amen.
And I do mean lovingly. And so
so let me chime in here. So
Please do.
we don't, number one, I agree 100%, and but just take it to the next level and some clarification stuff. Number one, we don't want to ever become legalistic, to where we have so many rules and so much stuff that it can't be followed, And then number two, we only want to dig our heels in when we know it's the right thing, not just because it's what we want to do.
Sure.
And then number three, we don't want to be different just for the sake of being different.
Agreed.
Because then that can make your kids weird.
Yep.
And so as long as we follow under those parameters, and like I said, this isn't something I've written down. This is just something we're just talking about. But in my mind, as long as we follow under those three parameters and stuff, then we're cool.
Yep.
If it's a conviction that God has showed you and that this is what you think is best, hey, you're the leader of the family, this is what we're going to do. And if other people don't like it, hey, that's on them. We're going to do what's best for our family. Now, we're not going to put so much on our family that, that they're going to fall one day because
Sure.
it's too much. No, we're going to teach them a little along, continue to build this space, and then when they get the age of my kids, man, they have no issues.
Yep.
My kids haven't been through any terrible stages and all that. Why? Because we never let them be terrible in another stage,
Yep.
And so it's just been a progression the whole time. It's always been great. And now, they're not going to succumb to peer pressure and things like that. Why? Because we've established identity so much, and we've talked about that in other episodes. But yeah, you have to do what you feel like is best for your family, and as long as you're not trying to put so many rules that can't be done, and as long as you're not doing it just for the sake of doing it and those kind of things, then hey, it's strong, And we'll say it on here, and I might have said this before, but this is our Christmas episode. We decided to not do Santa Claus.
Yep.
Okay. That's something we decided. And, number one, one of the reasons is because, if you're telling your kids that Santa Claus is real, the Tooth Fairy is real, the Easter Bunny is real, and all these kind of things they can't see, and then one day they figure out that you're lying to them and that you've been lying to them the whole time, and then you say, but the other guy that I told you about that is real that you can't see, Jesus, I didn't lie to you about him.
Yep.
That's difficult. That's real difficult because you've lied to them about everybody else that they can't see besides Jesus, and so that's difficult. And so that's the main reason why we didn't do it, is because we didn't want to have to, mess up our kids mentally,
Yeah.
And then number two, the other reason is because we wanted, and like right now I'm just reflecting, but we wanted our kids to know that, hey, mom and daddy work hard every single day. They both work, they both clean, they both do all these things. They work hard every single day, and we're able to get some things for Christmas, for our birthdays, because our parents work really hard and they wanted to provide us this. Not just some imaginary guy fell down a chimney and gave them these imaginary free gifts. No, it's your mom and daddy worked really hard and they wanted to give this to you. And so those are the two reasons why we did it. Now, looking back at it now, what has come from that? All three of my children have very strong relationships with Jesus. That, I hate to even say it like this, but really none of the three of them even had to get saved, really. I don't really mean it like that, but I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying.
It's not like
they were that good.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They've just been raised in who they are. The whole time. And so it's just been a process, and everything. But they all three have very strong, intimate relationships with God, and they're very strong with Him. None of them ever kind of believed in all these other imaginary things. They thought it was cool. You see Santa Claus on TV, see this one on TV. No different from anybody else, or whatever. But as far as God's concerned, They've never had questions about God because they've always had an intimate relationship with God. And then the second thing that we now see looking at them at 21, 20, and 16 is their work ethics are unmatched to any other set of kids. You know, now you might have children that grow up on a farm and they learn how to work hard and all that and everything. But my kids' work ethics, I mean, have been really strong for a long time. And it's because, I think some of it is because they realize that mom and daddy work real hard to provide these things for us. If we want to continue in the lifestyle that we live, then we're going to have to work real hard too. You know, and they understand this at a young age. We haven't ever made them get a job. We haven't ever made them do this. They've decided to do those things. We've never said, well, if you want this, you got to do it. No, they decided those things, but they decided it based on the principles that we raised them in.
Yeah.
So now looking at us not doing Santa Claus and not doing it that way, man, it was the exact right call. And we can see it paying dividends 100% now.
Yep, that's good stuff right there, man. I want to say that, you know, I can just attest to the truth of that because, you know, your kids are the only ones the ages that they are. I don't really spend as much time with Cooper because Cooper's still in high school. But Elena and Annalise, those are the only kids that age that I spend time around or have conversations with because they're not like other people that age. They're just not. And so they're easy to talk to because they're go-getters and they work hard and they understand working hard and getting things done and doing business stuff and prioritizing what's important. And like, so you can talk to them. And, you know, those are the type of people I want my children around. And, you know, we don't do Santa Claus in our house either. I don't know if we've talked about this or not specifically. I know we've talked around it, but I don't know if we've ever actually said it.
It's a good time.
But you know, I do want to clarify that it has nothing to do with Clay. Clay never told me not to. I didn't know he didn't do this with his kids when I made that decision. You and I were really just getting to know each other at the time we had our first child. And so, you know, for us it was a lot of what you said, but it was also just, and this is, I can't stress this enough, it sounds so ridiculous to a lot of people, but I just didn't want to lie to my kids. Amen. And I know, like, you know, people are like, oh, well, it's just fun. And it's like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Something about it just didn't feel right. Yeah. And I did, like, they're young when, you know what I mean? Like, she was young, and that's not the foot I wanted to start out on. It's like, all right, let me, like, work really hard to create a charade of this whole false narrative, and it's like, that is not what I want to spend my time doing. And I again, no quarrel if that's what you do with your family. Yeah, I have no quarrel with you. I am not the least bit upset you do that. You make the decision that you think is best for your family, and if that's what you want to do, I'm fine with it. But everybody's fine with that. Everybody's fine with doing Santa. The problem is when people don't. They're not fine with the people that don't. And it's painted as a picture of, like, who wouldn't let their kid experience that? Because look at the joy, look at the happiness, look at all this stuff, and it's just like, I understand what you're saying, but there's other ways to have fun and make Christmas exciting and do other things. And like, you can still create the same level of anticipation and mystery without telling them that somebody's coming down a chimney. You know, you just can. You really can. And my kids are so pumped about Christmas, and they know. Yeah. They know nothing. They're like, everything that's coming is from us. They know it, and they're fine with it. They're stoked. And I didn't have to lie to them. And another thing that I've just never understood, I've not been able to wrap my head around, people being upset with me that I chose not to be dishonest with my kid because my kid might tell their kid the truth. And it's like, one, I've talked with my kids about that. We've had extensive conversations. Aria has known for like 3 years. She ain't said a word. And when people ask, hey, are you excited about Santa Claus coming? She just smiles, giggles, and she comes and finds me because that's what I told her to do. Mm-hmm. And I had the conversation and said, look, it is not your responsibility to tell other kids that. You're going to be in trouble if you do, because it's not your responsibility. That's a mom and dad's responsibility to have that conversation with their kid. It's not Aria's responsibility. And she knows that it's not her job. And so I said, if people are talking about it and you're feeling uncomfortable, you just come to me. It's that simple. You don't have to do anything else. You just come find me, and we'll go from there. You can smile, you can nod, you can do whatever, but that's not your conversation to have. But, man, I shouldn't have to do that. Yeah. I shouldn't have to do that. And you shouldn't be mad at me because I chose not to lie to my kid, because it might spoil the lie that you told to your kid. That is insane. If you look at that, if it were any other situation, that would be insane. Oh, yeah. But for whatever reason, in this one, it gets a pass. I don't understand that, because I don't like feeling villainized, and I don't like people making it sound like I have harmed my children by setting a precedent of honesty. And the deal is, it's like people are like, oh, so you don't ever joke with your kids? That's the next place it goes. You don't ever play tricks? Of course I do, but I tell them within 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so the equivalent would be like, hey, look, Santa's coming, and then 10 minutes later being like, I'm just kidding. He's not coming. That's the type of jokes I play on my kids. There is no ruse that I participate in that is going to go on for 6 or 7 years. They're not the same, you know.
Or moving something around the house like it's moving itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, and I guess looking back at it, you know, so it wasn't that we were anti-Santa. It was that we didn't make him out to be more than what he was.
Sure.
So I'm sure that we took some pictures with Santa Claus sometimes. There's one available in the mall. There wasn't a real long line. Hey, y'all want to go take pictures with Santa?
Sure.
And they're like, sure. And we go take some pictures. I'm sure we've done some stuff like that. I think I even dressed up as Santa one time because asked me for a parade or something like that. I really think that I scared one of my children because I was dressed up like Santa Claus one time. I can't remember. Becky could tell us for sure. But I'm just saying, it's not like we're anti-Santa. Sure. We just didn't make him out to something that he wasn't. Mm. He was just like Cinderella. He was just like, you know, Barbie or whatever. You know, if we saw a girl dressed up as Cinderella, hey, that girl's dressed up as Cinderella. You want to go take a picture with her? Hey, that guy's dressed up as Santa Claus. Want to go take a picture? I mean, it's not been that big a deal. So we just didn't. It wasn't anti-Santa. It was just putting him on a different thing. Yeah. Now, as far as you said, jokes with your kids and stuff, you know, the funniest thing, and I think I did this to you the other day, but the funniest thing that I always did, we eat every meal available together.
Yeah.
Okay? So if whoever's at the house, when it's time to eat, we eat together. It's not Daddy doesn't go in there and fix something, and then so and so, and then and we don't eat in the living room, and just never have. We're just not saying we're against all that, but we sit at the dinner table. If it's me and Becky, it's me and Becky. If it's all of us, it's all of us, and we eat. But anyhow, if one of the girls had something on their plate that I wanted, you know, and I didn't want, you know, to tell them about it, you know, I'd say, oh, there's Hannah Montana or whatever. Yeah. And they would turn and I would grab their food and I would eat it, and they would realize real quick, Hannah Montana was never there.
Yeah.
Daddy just wanted to eat my food. You know, hey, that's all cool.
Sure.
Right? But we're not telling everybody that Hannah Montana lives in our house and you just can't really see her, but Mom and Daddy can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of weird.
Yeah, and you did do that to me the other day. We were in the office, and he pointed. He goes, hey, Hannah Montana. I was like, what? There's no way.
Yeah, something like that. Anyhow,
That's
we're going to get
stuff.
Miley Cyrus hate mail now.
Probably so, yeah. We could get worse mail. Yeah. So, yeah, all mail is good mail. Just depends on what you do with it.
There you go.
Man, so
that was cool.
Yeah, we didn't really intend to get into all of that. That was not part of the plan, but I think that it was good, and I think it was necessary. I think it was important for a lot of people.
Christmas special.
Yeah,
Why not bash Santa Claus?
Sure. You know. Let's just kind of dive into the next portion. We've been
Okay.
talking about communication, and I think that, Christmas and everything that we just talked about, mind you, was all because of how we wanted to communicate with our family, both short and long term, and how the short term communication was going to affect the long term communication. There isn't really a better example of how short term affects the long term than something like that, because there's so much communication invested in those types of things around the holidays. And so, we've been talking about it. This would be the fourth episode that we've been continuing to nail down communication, and I think we should keep doing it. And so I want to ask you this question. In leadership, I guess if you were going to say there was a dark side of leadership, the dark side would be manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And they are similar, but they're not the same. In your mind, what would you say would be the differences between leadership, or good leadership, strong leadership, and someone who is in a leadership position that's being manipulative rather than someone who's actually leading?
Yeah, so, like I said, never written this down, never probably discussed it, but I have an exact idea. I really think that a leader that is being manipulative is because they're a very weak leader.
Yeah.
I think that they're trying to skirt around too much. They're trying to jump ahead way too much. They're not prepared. They have not invested in their people, and they're really just trying to get their way. And I think that any leader can fall into that trap from time to time, but I think you really just see it mostly with weak leaders.
Yes.
With leaders that are just not strong, and I don't necessarily mean leaders that haven't led for very long. I'm just talking about weak leaders.
Correct.
There are people that have been leading, so to speak, for a long time, but they haven't invested, they haven't put the time in, they haven't done those things, and because of that, they feel the need to manipulate people into doing what they want them to do instead of leading people into the direction that they should go. And it's totally different things. Trying to control somebody to do something that you want them to do and leading them in a way that they should go is two different things. But I think so many times weak-minded leaders end up manipulating people to try to get faster results. But in the end, it's going to end with no trust, and it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
I know some leaders, that come to mind that usually get what they want. But then I hear things later like, well, I had to go to another one of those sessions where he's just going to manipulate me to do what he wanted. And they submit to it because that person's in authority, but they don't respect it.
Agreed.
And over time, that gets difficult. If I came to you and said, look, Andrew, I know you feel a certain way about this, but I feel a certain way about this, and really I'm going to need you to do it my way. And this is what we're going to need you to do. And, hey, I'm not expecting you to like it, and I know you'd rather do it this way, but right now we just need to do it this way, and then we're going to run with it. Man, you would submit to that, and you would say, look, man, this dude's never been at me like that before. He must have some reasons that he just don't have time for right now. And look, I understand that. I would rather do it this way. Don't really want to do it. But he asked me to do it. Hey, let's go with it, and we'll go from there. You would do that. But the next time, and the next time, and the next time, all of a sudden now, we've broken the trust. There's no relationship, and it could be real detrimental.
Sure.
And so we need to make sure as leaders that we're not trying to skip the steps in order to get what we think is the final results needed. And really, like I said, I think it's mostly weak leadership.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I can sum up 90% of the problem very simply, and then I can hit the other 10% real easy. So 90% of the problem when it comes to the difference between leadership and manipulation is a person who is a leader, a true good leader, cares about the whole entity. A manipulator cares about how he is viewed in light of the entity. And so a leader is saying, I want the church to succeed, and I'm going to make decisions, and leadership conversations are going to be had based on what I believe will increase the value of the whole, regardless of whether or not I'm the person who gets the credit or glory for those changes being made. And so let's say we had a pastor that was a senior pastor that just wasn't that good of a preacher. You know what I mean? Like, people just didn't resonate with him. Like, he preaches on Sunday mornings, and you could just kind of tell, like, everybody's falling asleep. And, a good leader who cares about the whole would say, hey, you know what? This just really isn't my gifting. I've got the vision, but I'm just not a good speaker, And he would appoint someone on his team who is good, to do two things. One, to preach more often. Two, to teach him how to be more effective, right? He would actually, even though he's got the authority, he would position himself under them in just an area so that he could be made more effective. And so that's the major difference. And 90% of the problems is the leader cares more about how they're viewed. A leader will do that. A manipulator will say, well, I can't give Jim more time to preach because then everybody's going to think that Jim's really the one who runs the show here. That's a manipulator. Right. And they're going to always point things back to where they look like the big shot. And it's never good. That's 90% of the situations. It's just a selfish leader. Mm-hmm. The other 10% is someone who, and this I think is kind of what you're referring to when you say they're just weak, is a one-dimensional leader. He only knows he's a one-trick pony. He only knows how to communicate one way. And because he's not effective or skilled at communicating in any other way, he always has to fall back on the one way he knows how to communicate. And for some of them, that's through deception. From some of them, it's through anger. For some of them, it's through sympathy. For some of them, it's through bribery. Right. But in any sense, if you have a one-dimensional approach at communication and leadership, you're going to end up in some positions where you have to manipulate to try to get any sort of result. I say have to. You don't have to. You're going to feel pressured to manipulate in order to get any kind of result. And so a perfect example would be, you're dealing with a leadership situation where let's say I was in charge and you were under me, right? And the job I need done really falls in your wheelhouse, but you're really, really busy. Right? And so I'm going to ask the next guy in line to do this job that's really in your wheelhouse and maybe even your responsibility. You know what I'm saying? And so I go to the next guy and I'm like, hey, look, man, Clay asked me to come talk to you. He just, he's overwhelmed right now. He's dealing with some stuff at home. He just doesn't have a lot of extra time. It'd be super helpful. And so that guy will step up and he'll do that job. But when it all comes to light later that it was a manipulation, everything in the future is bombed. Right. And so that's where the other 10% comes from. It's just a leader that's weak because he's boxed into a one-dimensional type of leadership. And I've seen both those. Have you seen both of those?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have. I just think that so many times, it may not be that he's just one-dimensional. It might just be that he's trying to get faster results. Yeah. And hadn't laid the groundwork. We talk all the time about relationships and how important relationships are. And it's so much easier when you have that relationship. But when you're just out trying to pull on the heartstrings or demand or, whatever, it turns into manipulation, And we see that. And like you said, you may get what you want once or twice, but it's not going to sustain.
Yeah, there's something coming down the pipe that's going to hurt you. So, which kind of leads into, the next part, and, how important is honesty as a leader? Is there ever a time not to be honest?
Yeah. So I recently asked a friend of mine that I trust, I said, hey, man, what's an area that you think that I need to work on? And we're just talking about as far as, being a pastor, being a leader, being the best that God, has for me. And he said, well, he said, I don't really know of an area. He said, but he said, I think that sometimes you need to just say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is, you just be Clay Russell. Hey, man, that's enough. He said, I think sometimes you try to explain too much about why we're going to do what we do.
Yeah.
And he said, man, you're in charge of this. Hey, we're going to do what we do because you said that we're going to do it. You know, well, sometimes, you know, looking back at it, I am, you know, try to be maybe too honest in some areas. And I think that we always want to be honest. You don't want to tell somebody a lie. I'm not saying that. But I think that some people working with you in certain areas can only handle a certain amount. So if you tell them too much information, then they're not going to be able to process all that information. So I don't think it's about being honest or not. I think you should always be honest. But I don't think that you should tell everybody everything because everybody can't handle everything.
Yeah.
If you tell them all the inner workings of everything going on, they'll get so focused in one little area that they're not able to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I don't think that's manipulation. I think that's understanding who you're investing in and who you're dealing with, you know. I mean, we have guys that are great in their role at Fresh Start, but if you gave them a different role, then they wouldn't be great at it, you know. So you need to understand your audience and understand your people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you should always be honest with them, but I do think that you should be able to hold back some information from them if it would be detrimental to where they are in life right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge difference in not talking about something and being dishonest. You know, I'm always honest with my kids, but there are some things we don't talk about. They're not ready to talk about them, and if they had to talk about them right now, it'd be detrimental for them in the future. They're not ready for all conversations. And it's the same way, you know, because not everybody's got all the pieces, and you can't explain the whole vision in 10 seconds in passing. Hey, why are we remodeling this office? Why are we expanding this office? Well, I can't tell you that we're about to bring a new staff member on that nobody knows, and that these 3 people are being bypassed for promotion because we had to bring this guy in because he's got experience. And like, there's no way to explain that whole vision in passing in a couple of seconds. And so you give him that information right now. Now he goes home, he's stressed about it, he's talking about it, he starts talking to the other employees about it, and now everybody's mad, and nobody has any idea why. They're just angry.
Well, and we see that a lot in church and stuff, as church leadership, and you got to be careful with it, you know. And I think we kind of talked about that one time on the episode about being 100% transparent with our wives or something. But, you know, I mean, being a pastor is one of the most stressful things. I can't think of what else, you know, but being a pastor is a very stressful thing. Well, we're able to handle it. God's called us to do it, but everybody around us wasn't called by God to do it.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about things that are involving in church and different things like that, and we're letting people hear it that's not called to that, then we're not doing them any favors.
Yeah.
You know, because we may be juggling 10 or 12 different personalities and peoples and all that kind of stuff, but they may hear about one and they're like, well, if that person goes to y'all's church and she's got that idea, then I can't go there. Well, the answer is, yeah, you can. And you have been. I just shouldn't have said nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You've been going to church with her. It's been just fine before you had this information. Now that you got this information, you think you can't deal with it. Well, you're right. You're not called to do this, and I shouldn't have said it around you, you know? And so we do need to be careful what information we put out there and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, man, you know, you have to be honest.
Sure. And as a subordinate in a lot of situations, you know, because I'm not always in the top rung of the leadership role in everything I'm involved in. And as a subordinate, when there's a call that comes from my leader and he's honest, I can respect it even if I don't like it. You know, when it seems like he's trying to I'm not talking about not tell me everything, but when it seems like he's being shady, that's a whole nother realm of thing. And so, like, I don't want to do something shady, and it seems like you might be asking me to. You know what I mean? Like, that's a different thing. But if you're just like, hey, look, we're remodeling the office you're in. You know what I mean? You're going to expand it. Go ahead and straighten your desk out, stuff like that. Like, man, I got a lot of questions about why. But if you're like, hey, it's not something I can get into right now, we'll talk about it later. I'm like, all right, it just is what it is. But when you try to, oh, hey, look, man, you ain't got nothing to worry about, and you start doing all this weird stuff,
Right.
like that's not a conversation needs to happen.
It goes back to the first week of communication, though. What pattern has that person set up leading to this?
Correct.
Correct. And that's the reason I said a while ago, if I asked you to do something and said, hey, this is the way we're going to do it, because I've established a pattern of not asking you shady stuff and that kind of stuff, because of that, whether you agree with it or not, you would do it at least the one time.
Yep.
Because I have a good pattern going on in how we handle each other and communicate with each other.
Sure. So honesty and leadership, man, can't stress enough how important it is. Here's another thing that I think is extremely important that I think gets overlooked constantly, is that once a leader reaches a place or position of authority, or once a person reaches a place of leadership, position, or authority, oftentimes that is the end of their willing participation in processes that make them grow. And so I have finally made it. I am the director, I am the preacher, I am the president, CEO, whatever. I no longer have to bear the responsibility of growing myself and continuing to learn. What have you seen from that?
So as you step into a different role, there are going to be things that you need to give to somebody else, okay? You stepped in this role. You can't just continue to add things to you. You're going to have to delegate some of these responsibilities to other people. That is true. That has nothing to do with this question. We all must continue to grow.
Yep.
At all times. We've never arrived. Now, do we need to continue to grow in this area instead of this area? Yeah, we do. I grew up doing praise and worship music and stuff. If I was a full-time pastor and that's what I would do, I would have to not play praise and worship music as much. So in the time that I spend practicing songs and stuff, I need to be practicing for this new role that I have. But either way, I need to be growing. Either way, I need to be practicing. Either way, I need to be moving forward. It just can't be on bass guitar right now.
Yep.
Right now, it needs to be, learning a few more little Hebrew things.
Yeah.
It needs to be, a few more details here and that way. And so we always must continue to grow. It may be in a different area, and it may look different, but that doesn't stop the fact that we all do have to continue to grow. We can't just say, oh, I arrived, I'm here I am, this is me. No, this is me right now, and I'm going to continue to grow into this role until there is another role.
Sure. Yep. There's I'm going to paraphrase a quote that I really enjoyed a while back that has just continued to pay dividends. It's the minute that you decide to stop learning, you have forfeited your right to keep leading. And so if you're not willing to continue growing, you should not be leading. And your people see whether or not you're still teachable as a leader. Your people can see it. It's all over you. Whether you're teachable or whether you are arrogant and think you have it all figured out, they're going to very clearly see one of those two things from you. And a teachable leader, even if you don't need to be taught at the moment, but the fact that you are teachable and you are willing to learn is something that people can see. It's something your subordinates can see on you. And they're going to respect someone who doesn't act like they know everything a lot more than they'll respect the guy who does. Because if a leader who doesn't act like he knows everything makes a mistake, we can live with that. But if the leader who knows everything makes a mistake, we can't live with that, right? And so because he's not going to learn from what just happened. He's not going to get better from this. And so that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. So continued growth is a massive thing. Being willing to be teachable and learn is huge. Also, your subordinates are going to keep growing. Let me just go ahead and tell you. They're going to keep striving. They're going to keep learning. And if you, as a leader, aren't growing, eventually as far as knowledge of your own business is concerned, you're going to be surpassed. And what's going to happen when you get surpassed and the people know you're not teachable and you're not growing and you refuse to? Well, they're going to want to replace you.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And why not? Why wouldn't they? If somebody with more knowledge and more skill comes along, if you're not growing yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, if you are growing, even if you do get surpassed, everybody's okay, because you'll probably learn from the guy who just passed you. You'll gather that knowledge yourself from your relationship with him. If you're a good leader, that's exactly what happens. Mm-hmm. If you're not a good leader, then it's time to cut the cord. And, we see that a lot, and which kind of ties into another point that I really want to make is, as a leader, be willing to ask for help if you need it. Mm. Have you seen leaders struggle asking for help? Is that a problem that you see a lot?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I see leaders that have never asked me for help, and I'm there for them.
Yep.
And so I try not to be that guy. I had one of our really good friends come up to me the other day. He was like, "Look, man, I know you got a lot going on, in life. I know you got a lot on your plate. Hey, if there's ever anything that I could do to make it easier for you, let me know." And you hear that maybe a little bit, not much.
Yep.
In passing. No, this guy was very specific. Mm-hmm. He said, if there's a couple that really needs marriage counseling, but you just don't really have time to add another couple, mm-hmm. let me know. I'll take them on.
Yeah.
If you recommend it, I'll do it. If there's a preaching deal that you need somebody to do and it needs to be done, but let me do that for you.
Yeah.
If there's this or that. And, hey, that was important, to me to feel good about that. But we also need to be the person that will ask other people for their help.
Yep.
Hey, you're real good in this area. One thing that we like to talk about is we have a guy that graduated our program in 2007, and he's went on to get master's degrees in teaching and master's degrees in theology and apologetics, and now working on his doctorate degree. His name's Tyler Dean, and we love to say, he's our resident nerd and everything. Well, if we have a question about the Bible, we go to Tyler. Mm-hmm. We're not ashamed of it.
Sure.
If I got something that's kind of a new revelation on my heart and I want to check it, I'll go to Andrew. If you don't understand something, I'll go to Brother Dave. If I'm trying to understand something from Hebrew or Greek or whatever, I'm gonna ask Tyler one. I need to figure out. He already knows. I can guarantee you. Mm-hmm. And so I've never had an issue with that. But we see so many leaders that do have an issue with that. Mm-hmm. It's like they can't learn from someone that's not perceived to be at their level.
Yeah, how crazy.
You know what I'm saying? But that's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird because we all grow in different ways at different times. Mm-hmm. And so just because, you feel like you're here or whatever, you can still learn from somebody that's here that really just has good knowledge in this one area.
Yeah.
And I love Tyler. I don't think that Tyler we're great friends. I can say this. I don't think that he would be as good in my position today as I am. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it for 17 years.
Sure.
I kind of invented the position. I know how it works real well. Mm-hmm. Not saying that he couldn't be, but today, if I had to pick me or Tyler to be executive director of Fresh Start, I would pick me. Mm-hmm. But Tyler's got a ton of great qualities that I tap into all the time.
Yeah.
So just because I don't think that he's a better executive director today mm-hmm. doesn't mean I can't learn from him. I can learn thousands of things from him.
Sure.
I could probably learn more from him than he could learn from me.
Sure.
I'm just real good at a couple things, and so I think as leaders, man, we need, but I tell you, when I do go to Tyler and ask him those questions, I don't think he thinks that it's a burden. Mm-mm. He's very happy to share those things with me.
Yeah.
He's never one time like, well, you're the one preaching the sermon. You don't know?
Yeah.
He's not like that. He's very willing to share the gifts and talents and hard work that he's put in with me. So if he's very agreeable to share it, why would I want to receive it?
That's good. That's good. Tyler, man, he is solid. A lot of times when I preach, Tyler's who I look at, especially when I make a strong, like, factual point about Scripture. He nods. Like, if it's right and he agrees, he nods. He does.
Right.
The whole message, you know, you can see it. And it's probably more when he sees you looking at him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but a lot of times, like, I'll check myself using Tyler, who's in the crowd.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, when I make a strong point that I'm like, you know, I hope this is landing well, I'll look at Tyler. If Tyler's nodding, I'll keep going. And if he's not nodding, I'm like, okay, I may not have communicated that as well as I needed to. I might need to
Back
move.
up, look at it again.
Yeah, or move on.
Move on. Yeah.
And so, no, it's super great to have people like that. And, you know, and a lot of what you talked about was mostly from, like, the experiential and training side.
Right.
That's not talking about the spiritual side
No.
itself, because here's the reality. A guy who has no relationship with the Lord is one step of full surrender from being exactly where I am in my relationship with the Lord. You know what I mean? So for a lot of us, we surrender in pieces. You make like a big chunk of surrender.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm going to give God most of this. And then as we mature in Christ, we continue to recognize, he continues to reveal to us more things that we haven't surrendered. And so we're like cutting things out and getting better and better and look more like Christ as we age and have life experience, right? That's how it kind of happens for a lot of people. I would say most people, you know what I mean? But if a non-believer had the capability to truly, fully surrender in a moment, which I believe they do have the capability to do, he's there.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's everywhere that I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? So this elitist mindset that we see from leadership or especially in ministry, man, that's always been so crazy to me, because, I mean, dude, you're one act of obedience away from being as far in the relationship with the Lord as I am. You know, less experience, but equally far.
For sure.
You know, and so I don't see people as different for that reason. I can't. How can I look at anyone as different when they're just one decision away from being in the same spot? And so, yeah, you better open up your mind a little bit.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, this has been a heck of an episode. I
We've
think
done good.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot to call it. What you think?
Man, I think we're good. I remember just seems like just a few minutes ago we were trying to figure out a get to know you segment, and now we've done like a whole show.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Hey, we love y'all. Merry Christmas. Happy Santa. No, I'm just joking. And have a great week.
That'll be good.